Dana Bash on State of the Union asked Lindsey Graham a question about his previous statements in regard to Donald Trump and January 6th and Donald Trump's attempts to overturn the election and the way that he is outward facing now. And to be clear, the specific wording that Lindsey Graham used in the clip that Dana Bash shows to Lindsey Graham as he's sitting here today to say, like, are you being hypocritical or do you still stand by this? The actual wording, you could say, isn't necessarily Lindsey Graham completely condemning Donald Trump as an individual or the actions he took. It's specifically him setting himself aside from the rioters and the particular belief that Trump had that senators shouldn't be certifying the election. But I think it's pretty clear on that day that Lindsey Graham had this sentiment that Donald Trump was deeply in the wrong and this was kind of an unforgivable moment. And now that's not at all the way that he feels. But this is not just a let's call out hypocrisy angle, because again, I think you have plausible deniability in this situation. If you're Lindsey Graham, specifically about being consistent on this issue, he's definitely not very principled in many ways, in many other areas. But this clip, I think, has a number of different moments that yield interesting points I want to make. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Ask just each of you about, you talked about each of your political parties, look forward to 2024. Senator Graham, you said that you want Donald Trump to run again in 2024. Yeah. I want to play for our viewers what happened late in the night on January 6th on the Senate floor.
Trump and I, we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it being this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see, all I can say is count me out. Enough is enough.
So why now do you think Trump has the character to be president again?
Well, I think he was a consequential president. If you compare his policies to what's going on today, I think he's got a hell of a story to say. That speech was about, I'm going to certify.
So again, he's about to say that that was about certification, not necessarily about Donald Trump as a whole. I don't think that's true, but obviously you can't know what's in somebody's heart. What does matter to me is what's coming up, where he admits he doesn't believe the election was stolen. And then if you believe that and you're willing to admit that and then go on to defend Trump, to say that he could run, he should run, it's really, really weird to me, and it's deeply unprincipled, and it makes me pretty mad because you're recognizing that that election was secure and that election was rightful and the results of it were, and then going on to support someone who is actively trying to undermine our democratic processes and leading to terrible outcomes in the process. So let's go ahead and take a look at kind of a few more moments, and then we'll discuss further.
The election. Here's some things I don't believe. I don't believe the Taliban when they say they didn't know Zawahiri was in Kabul. I don't believe Mayorkas when he says the border's secure. I don't believe the election was stolen, and I don't believe this new bill is going to lower inflation. That's where I'm at.
You don't believe the election was stolen. Do you want Donald Trump, if he is looking ahead to 2024, to stop saying that?
I think we should look at election integrity measures to make sure some problems don't happen again. But if he runs for president,
Okay, we'll give him a little bit more time to answer in a second here. But again, okay, so you just said you don't believe the election was stolen, and he's about to say, I think Trump should stop talking about it. That's not enough. You can't just say, I think strategically it's a bad idea for Trump to talk about how the election was stolen. We should look forward and compare Trump to Biden's record. No, you're admitting that the guy that you're supporting is against our democracy. You can't willy-nilly, as the most powerful person in the country whenever he was president, undermine our democracy. That does lasting damage. And quickly, before we continue with this clip, an example of this is Donald Trump laid out the playbook during 2020 about what it looks like to deny rightful election results when you lose, but you don't want to concede, you don't want to give up power. And now people who are Trump supporters, who are election deniers, are following that playbook. Carrie Lake in Arizona, running for governor, she just got nominated in the Republican Party. She did the same thing as Trump. She, before the election happened, was like, I think we're seeing some fraud without any evidence, so that she could say, hey, if it turns out that I lose, it's going to be because the election was stolen. But they're trying to steal it. If I win, it's just because we got so many votes, they couldn't steal it. So then either way, you're going to win or you're going to win. There's no other option. And so Carrie Lake's a great example of this ripple effect that Donald Trump caused, where all of these individuals, and there's countless others already just in the lead up to the 2022 midterms in the primaries, where people who are big MAGA individuals are going around in their election and saying, if I lose, it's probably because it was stolen. And that is what undermines our democracy to an extent where you really have lasting damage and you might not be able to overcome it. And after enough election cycles, you've deteriorated your democracy where it won't function properly. And so you can't see that, and you can't observe those facts as someone like Lindsey Graham and go, listen, the election wasn't stolen, so that's bad that he's saying that, but I still like him and whatever. No, you have to take a stand, because we can argue about policies within our democracy and we can work that out. But the second that you deteriorate our democracy where it doesn't function, then it doesn't matter about our disagreements about anything. It doesn't matter about your hopes for the future of our country, because we won't be able to do that through a good, healthy democracy. And that is what is so infuriating about the fact that individuals like Lindsey Graham, sorry, this is a much longer rant than I was expecting. People like Lindsey Graham and all of these other people, Kevin McCarthy, who I know don't think the election was stolen, but won't stand up against Trump and won't stand up against this assault on our democracy. Okay, let's continue on.
Talking about 2020 is not what people want to hear. He likes hearing it, but people want to hear about how can you secure a broken border? How can you stop rampant crime? What can you do to get the economy back on its feet? And how can you make it safer again? How can you stop Putin from going further? What would you do with China? That's what people want to hear. And here's the good news for Republicans. Based on the performance of the Biden administration, we're in the game at a level I never dreamed of.
So there we go. And then he goes on to make the case for Republicans. I think there's a case to be, if you're the Republican Party, I do think it's in your interest to try to point at all the economic things that are going wrong and say that's Biden's fault. Now, y'all know, based on my analysis of all of these different situations, a lot of the things that they would point at and blame Biden aren't actually Biden's doing. But if you're the Republican Party, you sure as heck want to make it out to be Biden's fault, and you could run a good election doing that. But instead, so many of these Republicans are still spreading lies about the election. And I don't think someone like Lindsey Graham, as much as he wants to talk about what he perceives to be Biden's failures, can ignore that fact and still have some moral backbone, because you can't move on to all of the different policy discussions we want to have. We can have them as well, but I'm saying you can't really move on to that before you've made a clear, strong position on, do you want to stand up to protect our democracy? Because then if we don't have that, we don't have much else. But as long as we have that operating and it's healthy and it's functional, then all of these different other conservative liberal debates can go on, and we can let it play out in the democratic processes that we have. And that's the beautiful thing about democracy. But it's getting broken down, and it's so infuriating watching so many people who recognize that it is a lie, that the things that are being spread out there are not true, but yet they don't make in a profound way and in an impactful way that clear to those who follow them. So Lindsey Graham is a great example of that, and I don't think we're going to see that change anytime soon.